How could you overlook something so fundamental? Margaret's voice sliced through the low drone of the kitchen fan, sharp and unrelenting, coiling around me like a tightening noose. I froze mid-stir, my knuckles whitening around the wooden spoon as my chest constricted. The pot of soup bubbled on the stove, its earthy aroma thick in the air. But all I could taste was the venom in her words. Sophie would never be so reckless. My name is Nora Ellis. I'm 32, a nurse by trade, and for the last 3 weeks, I've been the reluctant caretaker to my recovering mother-in-law, Margaret. When she went under the knife last month, I uprooted my life and moved into her house, juggling grueling hospital shifts with sleepless nights tending to her every need. I didn't do it out of duty. I did it because I thought it was right, hoping it might thaw the icy wall she'd built between us over the years. But no matter how hard I tried, my sacrifices were invisible, eclipsed by Sophie, her golden daughter, who breezed in weekly like a whirlwind of perfection, posing for photos before vanishing just as fast. I couldn't find words. My throat burned, dry as ash, and the retorts I longed to hurl lodged like jagged stones in my chest. Margaret turned back to the table, muttering something venomous under her breath, her disdain settling over the room like a suffocating shroud. Sophie, of course, was nowhere near, already late for her grand, fleeting entrance. Yet Margaret spoke of her as if she were the one standing here, ladle in hand, bearing the weight of her recovery. Reckless. The word seared into me, a dagger twisting deep. For 3 weeks, I'd surrendered everything, canceled plans, swapped shifts, even missed my anniversary dinner with Jack. All to be here. For what? To be branded reckless over a pinch of salt? Meanwhile, Sophie could waltz in for an hour, snap a bedside selfie, and claim all the glory. I stared into the simmering pot, my hand trembling as I stirred. Rage bubbled beneath my skin, hot and dangerous, threatening to boil over. It wasn't just Margaret's words. It was Sophie's smug, calculated charm, every visit a performance designed to paint her as the saintly daughter. She knew I wouldn't push back. At least, not until now. Just as I parted my lips to unleash the storm brewing inside me, the front door groaned open. Sophie sauntered in, her heels clicking like gunshots on the hardwood floor. "Smells divine in here," she chirped, clutching a bouquet of flowers in one hand and her phone in the other, as if she'd just descended from heaven to grace us with her presence. Her gaze flicked to me, her smile lingering a beat too long, sharp, predatory, before she turned to Margaret. "How's my favorite patient today?" she cooed, planting a kiss on her mother's cheek. Margaret's face ignited with joy, her earlier venom toward me evaporating like morning mist. "Sophie, sweetheart. You're just in time," she said, casting a pointed glare my way. I was just telling Nora how crucial the little details are, though she wouldn't grasp that. Sophie set the flowers on the counter with a flourish and let out a syrupy laugh. "Oh, Mom, I'm sure Nora's trying her best," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. She turned to me, her eyes glinting with mockery. "Don't fret, Nora. Caring for Mom isn't simple. I've been learning that myself." My jaw locked, words clawing at my throat, desperate to break free. Sophie was already pulling out her phone, posing beside Margaret with a radiant grin as the camera clicked. "Just capturing these precious moments," she sang, her tone light as air, as if she hadn't just hijacked every ounce of effort I'd poured into keeping this house together. As Sophie scrolled through her photos, no doubt selecting the perfect filter to polish her halo, Margaret sighed with contentment. "It's so wonderful having both my girls here," she murmured, her gaze fixed on Sophie. "Though I'll admit, Sophie always knows how to make me feel cherished." My grip on the ladle tightened until my knuckles ached. Both her girls? Cherished? I'd spent the last 3 nights waking every 2 hours to adjust Margaret's pillows, refill her meds, and ease her pain, while Sophie's care amounted to staged snapshots and empty promises. "Mom," Sophie began, her tone breezy as a summer wind. "I was thinking of bringing that herbal tea you adore next week, you know, from that quaint shop downtown. Work's been chaos, but I'll carve out the time." "Oh, Sophie, that sounds divine," Margaret exclaimed, her eyes alight with pride. "You're always so thoughtful." That was it. The dam broke. Thoughtful. I spat, my voice a jagged edge cutting through their charade. Both heads snapped toward me, Margaret's brows furrowing, Sophie's smile tightening. She drops by once a week for a photo op and vanishes. "I've been here every damn day, breaking my back to keep you comfortable." Sophie's smile didn't waver, but her eyes turned to ice. "Nora," she said, her voice smooth as a blade. "I didn't realize this was a contest. We're all pitching in, just in different ways. Some more than others," I muttered, turning back to the stove. The air thickened with tension, but I wasn't about to let her smugness silence me. Yet the instant the words escaped, regret crashed over me like a wave. I didn't want to be this person, petty, scorekeeping, but the unfairness clawed at my soul. Later that night, I retreated to the guest room, slamming the door shut. Sinking onto the bed, I dialed Jack, my lifeline. He answered on the second ring, his voice warm but distracted. "Hey, you okay?" "No." I choked out, the word raw and unfiltered. "I'm drowning, Jack. I've given everything for your mom. Everything, and she doesn't even see it." Sophie waltzes in with flowers and a fake smile. And suddenly she's the hero. Jack sighed, the sound crackling through the line. "Nora, you know how Mom is. She's always been this way. Don't let it get to you." "I know how she is," I snapped. Sharper than intended. "But that doesn't make it hurt less. Do you have any idea what it's like to be invisible here?" My voice broke, and I swallowed hard. "I just needed you to hear me." His tone softened, laced with concern. "Nora, maybe it's time to step back. You've done more than enough, too much. Come home for a week. Let Sophie take the reins. I miss you. And you're running yourself into the ground." His words hit me like a lifeline tossed into a storm. The thought of home, our bed, Jack's arms, was a siren call, but guilt gnawed at me. Margaret's frailty, her stubbornness, I couldn't abandon her. Could I? "I don't know," I whispered. "What if she needs me?" "She'll survive," Jack said firmly. "You've been a saint, Nora. It's not wrong to choose yourself for once." Jack and I lived 2 hours away in a cozy apartment we'd built together over 5 years. When Margaret's surgery loomed, I'd volunteered to move in, easing her recovery while Jack stayed behind, swamped by work deadlines he couldn't dodge. He called daily, checking on me, but I knew he carried his own guilt for not being here. I couldn't resent him. He was doing his best, just as I was. "I'll think about it," I said, my voice tight. "I promise." It was the right thing to say, even if I wasn't sure I could walk away. The next morning, Margaret sat stiffly in the living room, the TV murmuring a weather report. She didn't look up as I entered, her eyes fixed ahead. I hesitated, then braced myself. "Margaret." Nora," she cut in, her tone icy. I couldn't help but notice how late dinner was last night. "It's terrible for my stomach, you know." I blinked, stunned. "Dinner was ready when Sophie left." "I thought we'd agreed." "Because you weren't prepared earlier," she snapped, leaning forward. "When Sophie's here, everything's seamless. She doesn't need me to spell things out." My hands clenched into fists. "Sophie didn't even stay for dinner," I said, voice tight. "I've been here every day, making sure you're okay." "And yet it's always a battle," she retorted, her gaze chilling. "You're here in body, Nora, but your heart's elsewhere. You don't want to be here." Her words struck like a thunderclap, my chest seizing. "That's not fair," I said, trembling. "I've put my life on hold for you. I've sacrificed." "Oh, how noble," she sneered, cutting me off. "If it's such a burden, maybe you should have let Sophie handle it. She's busy. But she doesn't make me feel like a chore." I opened my mouth, then shut it, fury and hurt warring inside me. "I'm doing my best, Margaret," I said, voice low but ironclad. "I'm sorry it's not enough." She waved me off, turning back to the TV. "Your best isn't what I need. Sophie gets me in ways you never will." The room closed in, her words a suffocating fog. Without another sound, I fled to the guest room, tears burning my eyes. I wouldn't let her see me break. Sitting on the bed, I stared at my suitcase, then at Jack's last text. "You've done enough." Heart pounding but resolute. "We need to talk," I said, voice steady. She glanced up, unimpressed. "If this is about dinner, just focus on getting it right instead of whining." "No," I said, jaw tight. "It's about how you've treated me since I got here." Her spoon clinked against the pot as she froze, eyes narrowing. "And how's that, Nora? I've been here every day, turning my life upside down to care for you," I said, the words erupting like a geyser. "I've missed my anniversary, my friends, everything to be here. And you've made me feel worthless. I'm done." She crossed her arms, voice cold. "If you're so miserable, no one's chaining you here. Sophie would do better anyway." "Sophie's never here," I shot back. "She drops in for an hour and leaves. I've carried this, But if you think she's the answer, fine. I'm out. Margaret didn't flinch, her face granite. Good. I won't miss the griping. Sophie respects me. I hope she gives you what you need, I said, voice breaking but firm. Because I'm not coming back. I turned and walked away, head high, chest aching. In the guest room, I packed with fierce precision, each item a brick lifted from my shoulders. Margaret's barbs echoed, but I shoved them down. I dialed Sophie, thumb trembling. What is it? Nora, she snapped. Impatient. I'm busy. I'm leaving, I said, cold and clear. I'm done. Margaret needs you now. Step up. What? She shrieked. You can't just dump this on me. I don't have time. I've been here for weeks. I cut in. It's your turn. She thinks you're perfect. Prove it. Are you serious? I can't. Not my problem anymore, I said. Good luck. I hung up, grabbed my suitcase, and left without a backward glance. For days later, I'd almost found peace, burying Margaret's venom in walks and Jack's quiet presence. Then my phone buzzed, her name on the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Nora. Margaret's voice quavered, raw and desperate. I need to talk. Is everything okay? I asked, guarded. No, she admitted, voice cracking. Sophie hasn't been here since you left. She barely answers me, just excuses about work. She swore she'd come, but I'm alone. I can't even climb the stairs some days. I bit back the I told you so. I'm sorry, Margaret. I warned you she might not show. A long pause. I didn't think she'd abandon me, she whispered. I thought she cared. Silence stretched. She was tasting the isolation she'd forced on me, and part of me ached for her. I'm sorry you're going through this, I said, steady. But I can't come back. Not now. What? She snapped, fury flaring. You can't just. I gave everything, I said, cutting through. You treated me like dirt. I won't do it again. So you're holding a grudge? She roared. You think you're flawless? You were never good enough for us. Her words stung, but I held firm. I tried, Margaret. You never saw it. I'm done begging for scraps. She laughed bitterly. I should have known you'd bail. At least Sophie wouldn't. She already has, I said quietly. Before she could scream again, I hung up. Hands shaking but resolute. 5 days later, my phone buzzed again. Margaret. I answered, wary. Nora, she sobbed, voice shattered. I'm so sorry. Her words spilled out in a torrent. I've been awful, cruel. You didn't deserve it. I was blind. You cared for me when no one else did, and I ruined it. I sat, stunned. Margaret, No, please, she begged. Sophie's gone days without a word. I see it now. You were right. I don't deserve you, but I'm so sorry. Tears pricked my eyes, her remorse a knife through the scars. Thank you, I said softly. That means a lot. I don't expect forgiveness, she whispered. But I had to say it. I'll need time, I replied, gentle but firm. But it's a start. It is, she said, tears subsiding. I'll do better, Nora. I swear. When the call ended, I felt lighter, a fragile hope flickering. After her recovery, everything shifted. Margaret's sharpness softened into gratitude. Each visit laced with warmth instead of venom. She went out of her way to value me, and though the past lingered, it no longer crushed us. For the first time, I felt seen, and that changed everything.